form. It is possible, right? Because you can put your hands in and push it out. So what I will do, can you see me?
Yeah.
What I will do is I'm going to push out the eyebrow. Thank you, Stephanie. I think I did that when I remember my student video class. I did it. Because your face is very well stretched.
Yours too.
Thank you. So whenever I do this, I don't know if you see it, it's like a little bit of eyebrow here created. It's not that too pronounced, but it's like a slight difference. And whenever I do make faces, what I do is like I always push out the middle, because as we talked about it yesterday briefly, this is the part that goes farthest out, right? So whenever I create the face, I always like to just push out automatically, many times. And after this, I'm going to, from eyebrows to the bottom chin, I'm going to mark about half. And that's going to be where the nose is going to be. I promise you, after this demo, I won't speak too much. And after this, I'm going to find a chin, like chin bone. So what I will do is to push out, cheekbone, cheek, cheek, cheek. Thank you. It was so hard for me to say sheets. So I will say attendant shit, sign up on the shit. But do you speak Korean? You don't. Or Spanish? Hola. And then I'm going, and then also everything has a middle point. So I'm going to push this out too, because this is formed this way. Everything is round, not round, cylinder form. And after this, we're going to make nose. For nose, all you need to do is 1, 2, 3, 4 little coils. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to make a height of the nose. So from where we marked, where the eyebrow starts, I'm going to put the long coil, okay? And it's important how you push around. So first thing, I'm going to push this way, just to make sure this is how it's gonna go. But then, how I'm gonna do is to use my two thumb and just push to the side. That way, you don't push this around too much so you still have the height, right? And then we're gonna make tip of the nose. So I'm gonna make a little big circle. And I'm going to push it from the bottom of my nose and round it up. Yeah? And I'm going to put that on to the face. And I'm going to make 2 nostrils. Diego, you can stop me, okay?
You're just fine.
And then you're gonna make up 2 little beans, like tiny beans. And then you're going to put it from the side, like this. And then, again, do not touch around too much. So what I will do is I'm just gonna maintain the shape of the nose and just go around the edge a little bit. And because I wanna have a little bit of volume on the tip of the nose, I watch a lot of makeup video, actually. And it helps that I glaze. What's a trend, you know? And then I'm gonna have a little tiny bowl of clay, and then I'll just put it a little more so I can make the nose, tip of the nose, a little more pronounced. Then we're done with the nose. So let's talk about the eyes. And then I'm going to cover around the eyes like this. And then I'm going to push that to the face, like that. See, eyes inside of your head. And I'm going to do another tiny, skinnier coil, and then put it around the face.
Could you show us an Asian eye and an Americanized eye? Like do one and then the other and then fix it up.
I was going to do one and then give Diego time.
Oh, okay.
But I can actually alter it. So, Asian eyes, I think up to here is like same. And then how you put the eyelashes will be slightly a little different. And if I'm creating more Caucasian type, I probably will add a little more of the bridge. Like most of the time, if you like wanted to create more Asian type faces, you just don't need to put as much of eyebrows. So, and then after this, I'm going to make little tiny fat pouch comes down from the nose to the cheek. And then if I know if I'm going to make something crazy like, like frowny faces, this is a time that I will be going and like really making like very expressive eyebrows because I know that's what's gonna go. But today I'm just gonna make very still face. Diego, have you sculpted any like figurative sculpture?
Not really. I have tried. Mostly, what was the question? South, so it's right there, but perspectives are different, right? And my father's family is from Ortiz, and he knew about the pottery, of course. And by the time I was born in the 80s, then Ortiz pottery was already well known. And then I had a visit from a cousin, and we were always doing mischief after mischief, right? And he had seen actually, he was a year older than I am, and he had seen pottery making in Ortiz. And we knew where there was a clay deposit in Santa Rosa where I live. There is a hill across our house, and I would also see, people going in horse carts, to collect the clay. And one time, my father and I were walking close to the hill on the road, and I wonder why were the people putting dirt. I didn't know it was clay. I didn't know what clay was. Why were these people putting clay in the bags, right? Why were they putting dirt when they had the cart? So that was not regular soil, right? It was clay, and my father told me, they're making pottery. And I kind of felt intrigued after that. And then my cousin comes, he would come in the holidays, and he said, let's go get some clay and make something. And we just put water, went to the hill, collected some clay, mixed it with water, formed little clay balls, pinch our finger into that, and those were our pots. But we even dried them, sanded a little bit, smoothed out, and painted with watercolors. Then we smashed them against the wall. It was fun. But then when I was in 5th grade, this was probably 3rd or 4th grade. When I was in 5th grade, my neighbors in the same community, they started befriending relatives of the both families, theirs and mine, from Ortiz, and they would come to Santa Rosa and visit them. So my neighbors started doing some pottery, and I was 9 years old, and I was a friend with the kids of this family, and they didn't want to do it, but I started, because I watched my neighbors. So I started going back to the same hill from last year and collected some clay, and I didn't know anything besides what I had seen. So I started making my own pieces, and I asked my father how were those were fired. He didn't know the specifics, but like I say, in Mexico, the knowledge of clay is alive. It's been alive forever, really. So he knew it had to be baked so that it can be used. And we had cows, so I went to the corral, cut some down and fire 5 or 6 little pieces, not painting or anything, just the shapes. And I had seen my neighbors using plaster molds, but I was a kid, so I didn't know how to make it, and I probably didn't want to go through the process of making a mold. So I got a glass, and I used a piece of fabric, just pinch it inside, and use a string, tied it up, and that was my mold. You know, and I made my first pieces with those molds, and fired them, and I gave those to my 5th grade teacher. That's why I know the dates. We've been in touch, not so often, but maybe before the pandemic in 2018, she came to visit again.
So one there. One around the nose. Okay, and I'll get back to it. Now we're going to make the upper lips, my favorite part of it. Upper lips is like making a mustache. So you're going to make a little trapezoid, which is like this, right? Trapezoid, right? And I'm going to kind of pinch the end a little bit, just where it will going to connect with the nose. And I'll place it right under the nose, okay? Again, the middle is here. And what I will do is I'll just push it to the side to form it. Did you see that? Middle, and then just like push it to the side. And then I'm just going to connect this by creating, what is it? Angels. Cupid's bow. Whatever. Thank you. Then what I'll do is I'll use my little fingertip, and then I'll just go and dig it. Okay? And I'll do just like cleaning and wrap around. Kyungmin, how do you know like where to push, how to push? Like how do you like minimize touch to make the face? I don't even know how many faces I made. Practice makes perfect. So, not perfect, but like perfect enough. Good enough. So I will do this, and it looks like a little monkey right now, right? It's like a little longer on the upper lips. Here is the fun part. What you're gonna do, you just need 2 buttons. Clean. Whenever you work, whenever you throw on the wheel, whenever you hand build, make sure your hands clean. I will say this 1,000,000 times to my kids. Kids mean students. They know. So you're gonna have 2 thumbs. Get this, gonna get really quick. So what you're gonna do is to put your 2 thumbs where the Cupid's bow, your upper lips will start, and then you're going to go push and make the shape of upper lips. Just like a little smiley face. Right? Did you see that? And then what I would do is just like by folding this upper lips to the bottom of it, you're going to create the thickness of your upper lips.
See, with my fingers, I'm pressing inside, holding with my left hand that outside, just bring together the coil that I just attached. So bring the coil together with the rest of the piece well. Now again, pressing right where both parts come together. Oh, by the way, on the screens, on the slides, you're
I have a
going to
question. Sorry.
Oh.
Were you using the inside edge of a spoon to smooth inside?
Yep, I used this side, the concave,
Okay.
or not
Awesome. Thank you.
scraping, just like any scraper, right? And the spoons are the most perfect tool, for these. Different sizes. So I was saying the screens are showing images, and one of those he has social media information, a way to keep in touch, contact, follow up. So I appreciate that. He's with my left hand, and then I have a glove that I use for my right hand to paint. This one is a demo piece, and I don't have to be that careful because I want to show you more, instead of just a tiny little perfection type of thing. The pigments, the clay is bone dry. It hasn't been fired, it hasn't been based, so it absorbs the sleep right away, and the amount of sleep is very little, so it goes into the clay right away.
So what's
10 seconds tops, that's it.
what slipper are you using? Is it from
The same clay body we use it to sleep, and then with the pigments that we have, this one has manganese oxide.
And the third question, sorry, one is, so you mentioned, carbon in your mineral oil. So what are you firing to, and what's the concern? Is there a concern with that?
Well, if we don't fire it, what?
Sphere. See that? So we're only seeing a part of it. So which means eyes are also round. It's not flat. So if I teach one-on-one students, that's the biggest mistake. They just make the eye flat. So what I will do is, first of all, I try many different ways, but first time what I did was I will make little tiny oval shape like this, and I'll put it over the eye socket that we created. Right away, and end of the nose will meet the edge of the eye. This is just a general rule. Everybody's different. Maybe somebody's nostril might be a little bit bigger, but this is just a general thing. I don't even know how many faces I made so far, but this is just like what I come up with. So this is not existing face. And then after I put this on, what I will do, guys, I will not touch this height of it. What I will do is I will round up this eyeball that I just put it on to be round in the eye socket. See that? Or I will use my tool to just like clean out the edge. But what I'm doing here is to make sure that everything is round. Get it? There we get this. We have left eye. Right? All you gotta do is to actually round up the edge. Because my clay is half-inch thick, I still have excess, extra clay that I can just push out from the inside. Same thing, just different ways. And I'm just pushing out the eyebrows a little more. And then what I'm gonna do after is to create the little structure of the eyebrows so that eyeball won't fall off from your head. This will be a one-on-one student done. And they'll put eyelid, like one circle in the middle, and two tiny oval for the volume. That will make like a little shape, like a little volume of the lip. But I put enough of clay today, so I don't think I need a side volume. So this way you don't have a flat lip. You will make it and you're like eyes flat and lips flat. What's going on? Somebody's laughing because they know what they have made and they know what I'm talking about. But all you gotta remember when you're making figure is that everything is round, nothing is flat. Nothing is flat. Yes! Nothing is flat. And then for nostril, all right. Look at each other. Tilt your head up. Look at their nostril. Tell them if there's something in there. Sometimes what people do is that they will just create, I don't know if you can see this yet, but what they do is they're gonna just make a circle like this they just like make just circle. Okay? Yeah, they just do circle. But you just saw it from your neighbors. It's like a little bean. It's more oval, right? So I'm just gonna like create, just turn your tool. And then for me, nostril sometimes, like most of my sculptures work as air hole too. So like ears and nose will work as air hole too. So after you do this, I can see better. What I will do is I'm going to use my pen tool and I'm just going to clean out the edge of it a little bit more. Just round it up a little more. See, so that compared to this, to that, there's difference.
Studying a degree made in my life, in my family's life, and my community's life. So when we moved to Mato Ortiz in 2006, right after finishing school, I started working with my neighbors, translating first. I know, come up with a little something. We all, at a point, I'm sure, watch Bob Ross on TV. And so let's create a little bird here, right?
And what I will do first will be creating that height. So I'll just use a small little coil to put it on first and build the ear on top of it. Everyone's ear looks different. So I took a lot of photos of my ear, somebody else's ears, and then like play with it. These are general for me, but I always tell them don't forget about that little height behind their ear. And I also going to quickly show you how I do the bob hair without adding another slap on top. Because a lot of times people ask me, how do you make hairs? But if you really think of hair, it's just like a small, tiny volume, unless you have afro, then we have to build another thing on top. But most of the time, it's just like a slight volume, okay? So let's say I want to give a bang to this girl. What I will do is that I will just cut around where the bob hair would go, like this. You see that? And then what I will simply do is go in from the inside and then push. Whoa. Wow. I know, this is what I get whenever I teach workshop. I show them, it's like you don't have to add more clay, guys. And then I just like attach this to the edge of it. Again, if you want to know little details, if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can look for my workshop information. There's a Susan Fagan from Finland, something in me right now. So, but you have to be really make sure that you, like wherever you cut it, you need to make sure to go from the inside and connect those really well. And then from here, I'm just gonna like kind of push from the inside to make the volume slight volume. Again, it doesn't have to be too big, it's just a slight differences, because your hair is not, like here. It's like next to your skull, just like a tiny little volume difference. So you already have a bang. Now I'm going to show you something. From here, I told you I'm going to do the bob hair, so I'm going to do cut here and push this out. Wow. Can you tell that I've made so many faces? Trying to not use too many bags of clay. And all I need to do is basically like close this and close like bottom here and push out from the inside. Because I made it hollow, this is possible. If I was making use print form and then put the clay over it, I can't do this. So I always say clay is all about timing. It's all about being patient.
So smart.
So sorry.
Thank you
I have a question for Diego. I see that sometimes you have it burnished really nicely, and then also it looks etched also to where it's shiny, but then the etched part is like clay body. Can you share a little bit about that, and also can you share about the firing? Is not everything fit fired, and if not, what temperature
No,
cone
she
do you
just
go
pushed it
to?
out from the inside.
And still keep the
She
burnish?
cut it.
Did you get these to my right? Some of them are not, don't have brush strokes. The design has been done with a needle or a carver of some sort, a knife. So some of the designs are etched out or carved. Usually that's considered to be easier to learn. So the youngest potters, they start painting, but little by little. But for the most part, they start carving and etching to create the design. So if we have like a white color clay, and we put a sleep all over it, you know, like black or red or any color, and then carve out, scratch out the designs. So that's what you probably have seen in some of the pieces. All of this is done before they are fired, when they're just bone dry. Then the pieces get fired, the designs stay. You know, all the pieces that you see are fired. Low fire, again, you know, between 1300 and 1800.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Jess, and I just want to thank you both for being here and sharing your beautiful work with us and your processes. Also, thank you for learning English as a second language, and you both have just such a beautiful poetic grasp.
Thank you. And would you mind to speak up a little?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you for learning English and sharing what you know with us. I was just listening to both of you and hearing a lot of innovation in both of your processes, be it in tools, making your own tools, Diego, especially your culture. It sounds like you all are kind of pushing the industry and kind of learning together a lot. And I'm just curious of how you both see how that innovation, especially in tools, has pushed your concept of work over time.
Well, tool-wise, I don't think I was using that much of an innovative tool. Like Diego has very custom-made, like it has to be this type of brush. He's using a human hair. But I want to say this.
Much thicker hair, also very straight. Then it helps provide the structure, you know, the strength to the brush. So play with that. Yes.
You had the loop of the sort of when you were drawing. So you are cutting the end of it, that is come. So that doesn't go through the pen.
It does go through the one of the parts. You probably are noticing how skilled I am at drawing. I'm sorry. So we have this. That's sort of basic shape, you know, for the plastic part and for the metal tip. So you just bring the hair in and out, and then assemble it onto the hair is trapped between the handle and that plastic part.
Could you please explain about the pigment as well, that you are drawing?
The pigment, we make our sleeves. Thank you. We make a sleeve. You know, yesterday I sort of made a relationship.
Face sculpting.
Thank you.
So everything starts from slap over coiling and pinching. And I'm going to behead this. It's okay. It's just clay. It's not a real human. Right? It's okay, it's clay.
Hi, question for you.
Oil and then what you will see as you start burnishing with this process, with this method, then you'll figure out things. Oh, I need more water, I need more oil. And then, oh, you fire it, and because our pieces are low fire, if you go too low, you probably don't get rid of all the carbon that the mineral oil is creating or any other oil you're using. So it's just experimentation.
One last question.
Yes.
Do you have a preferred material for the claws that you use to apply oil in the water?
Not really. I use just any cloth. I used paper yesterday. So it doesn't really matter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm going to connect the head to the neck. So yesterday I made the neck, and then the neck was drying a little bit, right? So it doesn't move, it doesn't collapse. Because I'm using stone iron, it's like sturdy enough to hold up the weight. So after I make some facial features that I know this is supposed to be done, I'm going to carve out a little bit of clay. Sometimes I just take some clay out of the inside and put it outside. So what I'm doing is I'm going inside of it and then trying to like attach the neck. So I'm like pushing the neck, clay from the neck to the face, to the head, and then head clay to the neck.
Finding out that not all the clays, natural occurring clays can be burnished the way we want to burnish them. So that's another thing. And for the tortilla here, it's going to be about a 1/4 inch. Our clays, they shrink a lot. So to me, it feels like a lot, from 15 to 20%. So we have to consider that too. A real tortilla. Then again, I'm going to use the plaster bowl with the paper, so the paper helps bring out the piece when it is finished, and also prevents the clay from getting too dry from the plaster. And different shapes. This is more of a conic shape. Again, it helps support the base, but it also shapes it. In the 90s, were out of the studios of the Quesada family, because they were the ones that first were exposed to electric kilns. How would anybody else know about an electric kiln if we barely knew about electricity? Electricity came to Mata Ortiz in the 80s, and the people was already making pottery. So yes, coming out of the community, going to fairs, going to demonstrations, going to pottery studios, going to universities, it has helped us and enriched us a lot, because we can see what is possible, and then we can position ourselves regarding the rest of the clay world and the clay community and appreciate what we do, because there is also value in that. Sometimes, especially potters who don't travel much, I see the older potters, and I see Doña Esperanza, who's one of the oldest potters in town, and she's a short lady, 130, 140, I don't know, she's short, and she makes huge pieces. And you talk to her, she loves her work, but sometimes, like you can see her during the annual competition, she doesn't enter the competition because she might be afraid, she might be scared, she might think too little of her work. So it is up to us, potters like myself, coming out and seeing that yes, your work is simple, your work is a little bit coarse if you want, but it's as relevant as anybody else's for our clay community in Mata Ortiz. We all make the community. I try telling them all the time, don't think too little about your work. It matters. It encourages others to do something. Yes, maybe your surface refinement is not as great as somebody else's, but look at your huge piece. I'm not making that such a huge piece. I want to do it, so we all have something to bring, to the community.
I agree with that.
Media too, in order to grow, your creations. So So I always like to emphasize, yes, you can do it, but it takes time, it takes commitment. So if you love doing something, just focus on that, and you'll find the information, you'll find the resources, you'll find your mentors. You want to learn. It's almost like the mentor will come to you. It sounds cheesy and it sounds like not, but it does. Because you attract what you do. What you love doing. You might love doing something, but you don't do anything for it. Then the mentor will never show up because you're not moving in that direction. So I like talking about how simple our tools in Matortis are and how our processes and our story, but people is devoted to that. They're very dedicated, to clay. Every day, all day, 24 hours, 7 days.
Also, what influences you most? Like, which other, where do you get most of your influences from?
Well, for me, like I said early on, watching that book and watching that poem, not that I looked at it every day, but it was beautiful. It's a beautiful piece. Like I said, the sense of movement on the design and how congruent it was with the shape of the piece. And I wanted to do the same. And traditionally, the first potters would start mimicking or copying the pottery from Casas Grandes, which has a band all around the body. And those were probably painted while the piece was still on the mold or on the base. So there was no design on the bottom. It was all the way around, not much of a movement. Not that it's bad, but it is what it is. It's just flat design. And to change that, to make something else. And then that's what that piece encouraged me to do, to come out of that single band covering the whole piece. And then symmetry in Mat Ortiz was highly valued, not only by the potters, but also by the collectors. So you see pieces that had two sides designs, or that have three sides designs, repeating each other perfectly. And all the collectors, they say, oh wow, how can you make this exact same thing 3 times, 4 times, even 8 times, So it was a skill that was highly appreciated by both potters and collectors. But then I would see pieces like from Lydia Quesada. Lydia Quesada is one's youngest brother, and she's my favorite potter from Mat Ortiz, from the early generation. And she's painting with no symmetry, still geometric, but no symmetry. The flow of the design around the piece,
I use those 5-minute epoxy to place my finger where it's supposed to go, and then I'll wrap it around with the painter's tape, so it will just stay temporarily. And then I will use ABE's epoxy to fill in the gap. If this is a big crack that really needs to be secure, then I will use PC7 or PC11. PC7 is black, PC11 is white. So there's that difference. And for ABE epoxy sculpt, you can actually add colors. So I will mix with oil colors or acrylic colors to it and get the right color. But sometimes if the crack is too noticeable, what I do is I use that as another decorative element. There we go. You guys see that little dots, the orange dot, the little dots? They are all epoxy because there were a giant crack going through that sculpture. 1 or 2 coats of matte white, and if you use underglazes, water down underglazes, use like a wash, it goes over it. It almost looks like myolica. So I'm going to try it, but here's the thing. Amicum has a whole set of underglazes called LUG, lug. Have you seen those? They're in blue, purple labels. Thank you, Amicum. This brown is lug. I use them a lot for my hair colors. And then lug, difference between lug and velvet is lug has a little sheen to it. And if you actually mix lug underglazes with velvet, it bubbles. So some of you probably noticed, sometimes you're like, oh my god, this purple looks better in the look, and then you mix with a velvet underglazes, and then you get it out from the kiln. I fire up to cone 6 in the electric kiln. You will see like tiny little bubbles, and sometimes like cracks and stuff, because you mixed. If you just use straight underglazes, velvet underglazes, it should not have a problem. But then there's a couple reds that you use from velvet. If you put too much thick of coats, if you put clear on top, it bubbles too. So I would say like everything is same. Like you just have to like test out and then try different ways, and then you figure out your own recipe. But for me, I love to use underglazes, and I don't glaze over it. The reason why is that everything has like very delicate textures, very delicate forms. And if I put glazes, if I put it under light, what happens is that reflection. And it loses a lot of details. So I tend to like to just leave it as underglaze matte. Nobody's gonna eat off of my face. So, I'm okay. Is that enough answer, Mari? I saw so many ladybugs living in Montana. One time, I think, I'm sorry, it was North Carolina. I opened the light shades one time, and there were like dead, like 40 dead ladybugs in there. And that was just like too shocking for me, that image just stuck in my head. So I made tiny little ladybugs, like they make like 250, that paint them all by hands. And then I use them to incorporate with the epoxy. So I will make it into something else. So I'm just embracing my faults, like embracing these things to something else.
So you use just a standard acrylic paint?
Yes, standard acrylic. The problem with acrylic color is that it peels like a plastic, you know. So if I have enough time, I will use the oil color to mix with. But
Paint, like painted oil paint?
yeah, oil paint, yeah. Painting or paint. I just like wear them. You always, guys, you always have to wear gloves when you mix these. Okay? Lobster, I always wear a mask. I don't know why I have to say this out loud. Lobster, when you apply it, please wear it proper and you can clean it with water a little bit with your finger.
It's a part of the design, you know, and then replicate it on the other side. That's it. Or I can use a scraper, you know, like here. I don't know if the camera is going to be able to notice this, but there's a tiny little bit of ink there. I can use an X-Acto knife and get rid of that. Because it's not too big and it's not going to be noticeable. It's not going to take away some of the clay or the shine. Then, of course, there is all these other mistakes that I'm not aware of. Yeah, like Carla, you know, she's excellent. You know, there are tiny pieces from their eye. You can't notice the effects, you know. So she applied
1 or 2 coats of matte white, and if you use underglazes, water down underglazes, use like a wash, it goes over it. It almost looks like myolica. So I want you to try it. But here's the thing. Amco has a whole set of underglazes called LUG, lug. Have you seen those? They're in like blue, purple labels. Thank you, Amco. This brown is lug. I use them a lot for my hair colors. And then lug, difference between lug and velvet is lug has a little sheen to it. And if you actually mix lug underglazes with velvet, it bubbles. So some of you probably noticed, sometimes you're like, oh my god, this purple looks better in the look, and then you mix with a velvet underglazes, and then you get it out from the kiln. I fire up to cone 6 in the electric kiln. You will see like tiny little bubbles, and sometimes like cracks and stuff, because you mixed. If you just use straight underglazes, velvet underglazes, it should not have a problem. But then there's a couple reds that you use from velvet. If you put too much thick of coats, if you put clear on top, it bubbles too. So I would say like everything is same. Like you just have to like test out and then try different ways and then you figure out your own recipe. But for me, I love to use underglazes and I don't glaze over it. The reason why is that everything has like very delicate textures, very delicate forms. And if I put glazes, if I put it under light, what happens is that reflection. And it loses a lot of details. So I tend to like to just leave it as underglaze matte. Nobody's gonna eat off of my face. So, I'm okay. Is that enough answer, Mari? On the top. And the fingers are basically between sandwiched between those two slabs. So I always get confused sometimes if you don't think too much, but you always put your hands in backwards. But always thumb is inwards. Just remember, thumb is inwards. You just remember that it's okay. So basically what you need to do is I'm going to, I don't know if you saw me, but the slab that I was using it for making the whole thing was 1/2 inch thick. But for hands, because it's gonna hang the tip of my arm, I want it to be a little bit thinner and lighter. So what I will do is I will roll out a little more and then make it into maybe 1/4 inch thick slab. And then what I did is I just folded it in half, right? And then cut the shape of the palm. So when you actually look at your hands, when you make palm, you're going to cut out the shape of your palm, actual palm, okay? But only thing that you need to remember is that there is a little bit of extra here. So if you cut it like this, you're gonna add one more coil here. Do you understand? So when you make it into quarter thick of slab and then fold it in half and then you're going to basically cut out the shape of the palm. And then you're going to individually click in the solid finger. I think it's so much easier and so much sturdier when you're making your fingers are solid. And trying to make it like hollow, just very thin, slap and roll it and just keep breaks off. And then, because you have to bend it, right? So once you have 2 slabs, what you're gonna do is to actually put together, well not everywhere, all you're gonna put it together is this edge, like this here. And then right here. So here and there is where you're going to attach together. And I'm gonna give a little bit of space. Since this is going to be like this, right? When you look at your hands, guys, the middle finger to the bone in the middle is the highest point and everything falls to the side. So it's like round, like cylinder. And if you look on the other side of it, there's 3 muscles here, there, and here. Because we're building hollow, it's so much easy for us. We just push out from the middle to mimic that shape of the top of the palm. And for the inside of the palm, all you have to do is just mimic that muscle. And all you gotta do is to stick these fingers into that in between. And then when you're making fingertips, that's also another thing. When you look at your fingertips here, when you look at your fingertip, it is, how do I explain this? It's not like round, okay? It's always like flatter on one side where the fingernail is, and then it's rounder on the other side. It is very pointy. And the fingernail form is also another cylinder. It's never flat. You just have to remember that. And then I'm just gonna keep sticking in the fingers into this hands that I made it. And then when you look at your hands, of course, everybody's different. But my index finger is shorter than my middle finger, and my ring finger is almost close to the index finger. My pinky is short, but again, it's all different, but that's what I see, So I'll just put them on, like literally like put it into this 2 slab. If it's too long, you can just cut it off and click in. Like my 101 ceramics 1 students will learn how to make hands and a foot as a last assignment. And sometimes they love it, sometimes they don't like it. It depends, but that's also a good practice for me to know who's stronger in figurative, who's stronger in other sculpting or wool throwing. So that's a good way for me to actually figure out a way like what are their strengths. You guys didn't know, right? You guys thought that I was just torturing you. I had a plan. So after you put all those fingers in, you see like I was kind of trying to make sure everything is fall through how I planned it like this, right? And all you gotta do is actually put a little bit of tiny clay in between the fingers. So I'll do all, so that you will create the space in between fingers. And after this, I'm going to connect the fingers to the palm by mimicking my bone that goes through my fingers. You see this? I'm going to add that on, just like adding a little coil to my fingers, each and every fingers. Moshi moshi. Like do this all, like put the whole like coils there. Then my lovely assistant, Stephanie, learn from me, create this hand for me. So once you collect in all those fingers, and this tells me I'm a good instructor. Once you put all those fingers and then put the coils in between the fingers, you'll have a space that when you bend your fingers, this will make things more realistic, and then you have space to do so. So instead of doing this, think about more like, when you play ballet, you have the hand gesture to make the line flows a little better, right? So fingers can't do that. Besides the facial expression, I think the hand gesture of like, if let's say I'm making a very angry face and I'm like doing, instead of that, I'd be like, that's more powerful, I think. It gives extra something to it. So I use hands a lot. So this is just like really basic, and once you have all this form ready, I'll show you how you fold the fingers. Oh my God, hello Arthur. He's also another my clay hero. I have to say that. If you're a figurative artist, you always grow up watching his work in your workshops. Thanks for coming. To bend the fingers, if you actually hold up your finger and bend it, right, you'll see how it folds. But when it folds, it just doesn't fold, just like flat fold. They always create this little extra fat patch. So it has little like ripples, right? So you want to mimic that little details. So what I will do with Stephanie's hands, let's say I'm bending it this way, then I will cut my finger once, and then I'll cut it this angle. So that much you can fold it. You see that? And then if I want to cut like, Stephanie, that's not where it should be. It's more here. So you're gonna cut in the middle, and then you're gonna fold that way, you're gonna cut that way, and fold. You see that? And then you're gonna do one more thing. Cut, and fold. Oh, this clay is like a little dry, so it's cutting it off. But that's how you normally like fold a finger. If you just bend it like this, it's gonna be noodle finger. There's a structure in this. So make sure to like, even those like tiny little details, if you just do extra small little detail work, it always looks better. And then once you bend your finger, and you think about the knuckles, the biggest knuckle, small knuckles, and then you're gonna add extra form to that. So for knuckles, I'll just add a tiny dot to mimic that shape of it. This is 2 different clay now I'm using, but, well. And then, tip of it. And I'm done, Diego, I promise you, after I showing them how to carve out the fingernails.
Now what I'm gonna do here is just use it as a sort of an eraser. So what the soap does, it creates a layer that helps the rock go over the piece without scratching. Go over the design, I mean. You can try with other soaps. This is what works for me. It's leaves that I use. The soap doesn't scratch it. It's the clay now that the pigment, the slip is well attached onto the clay. If I wanted to sand away the whole design, I would really have to sand deep enough because the slip went through the clay. It's not just on the surface. Now we remove, you can use a piece of paper or a piece of cloth like I'm doing. It's already making the design shine and get older. See, it doesn't bring out much, it's just a little bit of the blackness out, but not enough to deteriorate the design. And I'll use this smaller agate rock. It's beveled, so the edges are round, not scratchy at all. And then again I burnish like I did yesterday with the same piece, but now I'm not using the oil, I'm not using water, just the soap. And I want to keep at it for the next 5 minutes. So back at you, Kim.